Not only is it tasty enough to make you want to eat it every day, but with its balanced macronutrient content, you literally can eat it every day. Cheesy, savory, and so mouth-wateringly good that it'll make you jump with joy. You would never guess that this is something you could eat every day, infinitely. Here's how I make it. Besides the spices and herbs, this recipe requires just a few basic ingredients, plus one very special one that I'll reveal later. Let's start with the veggies. These are my favorites to add to any Italian-style meat sauce. First, we've got zucchini. It adds fiber and texture to the sauce. I like to julienne it and then chop it up into cubes. A couple medium-sized carrots. I give them a quick peel and chop them into similar-sized pieces as the zucchini. I see that these thicker ends need to be cut in half again, while the thinner ends are just fine. They may not be close in shape, but they are close in size. Set aside and violently rip apart the bell pepper. Quickly rinse the halves in the sink to get rid of the seeds. Slice these into strips, inside facing up, and rotate and dice them into similar-sized pieces as the victims before. For the mushrooms, cute little guys, I give them a good rinse and slice thinly. I always try to be neat with these, but just end up chopping them haphazardly anyway until they are roughly the size I want. Set aside. For garlic, I quickly crush and mince the cloves. You can check out my last video for a close-up on my garlic cutting trick. And for the onion, or shallot in this case, just a quick mince and set aside with the garlic. Okay, prepping done. Now onto the sauce. While I'm here, I'll set the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit or roughly 204 C. Although it might offend a bunch of Italians and lasagna traditionalists in the comments, I'm not going to be simmering tomatoes for hours to make the sauce. Instead, I'm using canned tomato sauce. This stuff, or any other plain tomato sauce base, 3 15-ounce or 454 gram cans of it, plus about half a can of water, and set the medium-low heat. Next, I'll add in some seasonings, 1 teaspoon, about 6 grams of salt, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, about 3 grams, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, about 6 grams. I know I'm already using fresh garlic and onion, but these help to get the flavors just right. 1 teaspoon of black pepper, about 3 grams, about 2.5 teaspoons of dried oregano, and about 5 teaspoons of dried basil. This might seem like a lot, but it's actually perfect. Oh, and another tip, do not use Italian seasoning mix. It has other herbs in it that will mess with the flavor. I cover and let it simmer on low while I move on to the meat. For this recipe, I'm using 93% lean ground beef, perfect for keeping the macros in check. This beef is 100% grass-fed and raised without antibiotics or added hormones. And the best part is that you can get it for cheap if you know where to shop. Stay tuned for an upcoming video where I'll show you how to find the cheapest, highest quality foods. Into a hot pan, 1 teaspoon, roughly 6 grams of salt, brown it on one side, flip, and brown the other side. I use a cross-diagonal chopping technique to break up the meat into smaller pieces. Diagonal this way and diagonal that. To get an even finer mince, I like to use a potato masher to finish the job. And once the beef is mostly cooked, I add in the garlic and onion to cook for a couple of minutes. Slide into the sauce and mix. Already looking rich, and let it continue to simmer covered while I cook the veggies. To the same pan, I add the mushrooms and let them release some moisture. Then toss in the other veggies, zucchini, bell peppers, and carrots. These will soften and release moisture, which prevents them from sticking to the pan. And you'll know the veggies are done when the pan starts to go dry and they have softened up and lost some color. Add them to the sauce, cover, and kill the heat. Let's see if you guessed what the special ingredient is. That's right, cottage cheese, as many of you know, is a great substitution for ricotta and lasagna. It's leaner and higher in protein. Sure, it's not as rich, but we're about to change that. 2 16-ounce or 454 gram tubs of 2% into a bowl. If you care, you can blend it for a creamier consistency. Either way, adding a little cornstarch is a must because it smooths out the texture and helps it to retain water. 2 tablespoons, about 20 grams. Some whisking helps to break up the chunks a bit and begin to emulsify the cottage cheese into a creamy mix. Next, I add 2 eggs, the violent way, and after whisking, you can see just how much creamier this is looking. Add about a tablespoon of dried parsley and move on to everyone's favorite part.
Cheese.
The perfect blend of cheeses for a lasagna you can eat every day starts with part skim mozzarella, 1 pound or about 453 grams. Lower in fat, it offers a decent base of cheesy flavor while saving some room in the macros for a fattier, more flavorful cheese. Parmigiano reggiano, 150 grams or about 5 ounces, has a fruity, nutty flavor which adds some depth to the mix. I grate both into a pile and eyeball, adding about a cup of the mozz and half a cup of the parm to the cottage cheese mix, and whisk. Thick and cheesy. I'm getting impatient. Mix the 2 cheeses and set aside for assembly. A baking sheet to catch any drippings, followed up by a glass baking dish, 9 by 13 inch or 23 by 33 centimeters. And the first of 3 layers begins with the sauce. About a third of it, roughly 4 ladles of this size, and a little shaky shake to quickly and easily spread out the sauce. I then dapple on about a third of the cheesy mix and roughly spread around. For the noodles, I'm using oven-ready lasagna sheets. These don't need pre-boiling, which makes things easier. Well, except that they don't fit. But I've got a trick for that too. Pinching the sheets between the meaty base of my thumb and my finger corners, I just squeeze and snap the noodle, the other corner and now the ends, and it fits. The next sheet needs a little love too, simple enough, and a third, and so on, making sure to press the noodles into the sauce and cheese below. For the other end here, I can just use the pieces I broke off to fill in the gaps. Go ahead, leave your comment below. That's layer 1 done. Layer 2 is the same. A third of the sauce, little shaky shake, and make sure that the noodles are completely covered. Spread on another third of the fake ricotta and add on another layer of noodles. Break, break, place, break, squish, break, squish. But of course the last one has to be about half the size of what I've got. No worries, I'm no rookie. There, nice and snug. I can't wait for the comments. The last of the sauce and cheese mix, and it's time to top off the layers with the shredded cheese. Focusing first on the edge like this helps to keep things clean, and I cover up the gaps with what's left behind. An Italian nightmare, but this American's dream. Before I bake this, I should probably cover the sheet pan with aluminum foil. That way, whatever might spill over burns onto the foil and not the pan. I then gently crimp and bend a sheet of foil to lightly tint over the lasagna. The tinting will help minimize cheese stickage later. And into the oven it goes for 30 minutes covered. After the 30 minutes is up, I pull off the tinted foil, trying my best not to lose any cheese, and bake for another 15 minutes uncovered to let the top bubble up and start to get a nice golden brown. For a final touch, I turn the oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, about 230 C, and bake for 5 to 10 minutes or until the edges crisp up and the top is golden brown. Garnish with parsley, and I let it cool for about 15 minutes before serving. With each of the larger 1/8 portions packing 70 grams of protein and 770 calories, every bite is one worth savoring and knowing that you can eat this every day infinitely.
Nice.